All right, our next guest is a good one. Dennis Dodd of CBS Sports, breaking it all down in college football. Dennis, welcome to Up to the Second College Football. How you doing, bud?
Glad to be here. Week 10, ready to go.
Hey, so I want to start off something big SEC question, right? And I know the answer is yes, it's possible, but how possible is it that an SEC team doesn't get into the college football playoffs this year?
Well, we'll have that conversation Saturday night more if LSU beats Alabama. And, that leaves it up to basically Georgia to get into the playoff. That being said, I think Georgia can, quote unquote, afford a loss between now and the end of the season and still get in because of their body of work. And I know the schedule's not great, but at some point, you have to look at this team. And I was there in Jacksonville Saturday, and they're pretty stout. No Brock Bowers. Carson Beck is surprisingly the number 8 passer in the country. That one got past me when I saw that, but and their defense is just, we don't know their names like we did in the past. I'm talking about national scope. What is it? 19 draft choices, 8 in the first round in the last 3 years, but they're dang good.
Well, Dennis, I do want to ask you about Georgia because although their schedule has been easy, it does get ramped up here the next couple of weeks. Mizzou, Ole Miss, Tennessee. Do you see a loss in any of those three?
I don't. I guess Tennessee is the biggest hurdle as it was before the season. It was at Auburn late September and then November 18th at Tennessee in a revenge game. Tennessee seems kind of redefined itself as sort of a more defensive club. So yeah, maybe, but I'm writing about Missouri this week, and it's just kind of I don't want to say a courtesy. They've had a fine season, turnaround season for Eli Drakowitz, the guy who'd never had a winning record. Missouri's going to have one now. And this team was the upset kings of the 70s. For those of you that weren't born yet in the 70s, Mizzou is historically well equipped to do this, but they won't for all the reasons I just mentioned about Georgia.
Dennis, how about for Alabama? Man, the turnaround, we saw it in real time happen from the team that played early on to what they are now. LSU, obviously, it's going to be a tough matchup for them, even at home. After that, Auburn, no. Kentucky, I mean, they haven't shown up in big games. This is the big match.
Yeah, I think Alabama still should be harboring hopes about getting back into the playoff, because that would mean they would beat Georgia in the championship game and have quite a resume. They're only lost to Texas, but I still haven't figured Alabama out. I don't know who they are. I don't know if you agree, but I've always kind of know who Alabama is. In 14, they radically switched to the spread. For some reason or another, Nick didn't have a quarterback in the room this year, and I still haven't figured that one out. Trying to get by with Jalen Milroe, who happens to be a great athlete who plays football. I think that's the best way to describe him at some point. Their left tackle has given up more sacks than anybody in the country. Offensive line's been shaky. Defense has been good. So it's just maybe a game manager plus at quarterback, and then a really good defense, and they're going to ride that the rest of the way.
Talking to Dennis Dodd here on Up to the Second College Football. Dennis, how about LSU? Are you surprised? Maybe surprised is not the right word, but have they fixed their season? Offensively, absolutely. But has the defense done enough for you to be like, they may get this one in Tuscaloosa?
Yeah, I'm not sure. Going on the road, I suspect Alabama will drag them down in the mud a little bit. They won't score their typical 49 or whatever they're scoring. Still haven't figured out what they're doing with Harold Perkins. That seemed like a mistake from the beginning. How do you leave a talent like that inside? So, we'll see. It's kind of got that look. Well, I shouldn't say that. They've lost twice, but kind of the same profile as the 19 team. That 19 team had a bunch of draft picks on the defense, though, too. So I'm not ready to go there, them being a complete team. And this is going to be, still have to play, obviously, A&M at the end. But I think we'll know more about them out of the playoff race. Still in the West, and that's what they have to play for. That's why this is a fun game to go to Saturday. there's a story either way. But, I thought Tennessee might be that team, and they're more equipped defensively, and they just blew it. They're up by 13 and got boat raced. That's why that's part of the reason I can't figure out Alabama. That's them in summary. They're up 20-7 at half, and then, okay, now we're threatened, and we're just going to go ahead and score the next 37 points or whatever it was, next 30 points. So, so we'll see on LSU.
Let's move on to A&M, a team that isn't going to reach the potential that many people expected. I thought this was a 9-3, 8-4 team. That is certainly still in play. But when we think about this game at Ole Miss, how important is it to what Jimbo is trying to convince people it's still possible?
Ole Miss has an outside shot at not only the West, but playoff, and they seem to be coming together at this point. And Lane's done a pretty good job. I think a top 10 finish for them is realistic, but I'm having a hard time with A&M. It's just no there. Obviously, the injury at quarterback hurt a lot, but they're doing okay with Max. I don't understand why this defense, given where it came from and that recruiting class isn't dominating more. So it's just it's a middle of the road SEC team. It's not to say they can't win at Ole Miss. I think it's going to be tough, but I don't know. It's just like there's no there right now for A&M.
Dennis, outside of the Miami game, the defense has been pretty solid. I mean, it only gave up one touchdown to Tennessee, one touchdown to Bama, although Tennessee was able to run on them. Other than that, it's just really the Miami game that jumps out, and I think DJ Durkin kind of switched up his aggressiveness, and that's where you've seen the 33 sacks come from that point. Yeah,
but it's not. They're not playing complementary football. They're not a complete team, and I guess in year 6, why?
Yeah.
That's what I keep coming back to. So we'll see.
Do you enjoy the Jimbo and Lane Kiffin kind of feud that seems to be one-sided? Lane's won on the field, and he's won in the highlights at least on social media.
Yeah, I have a vague idea of what he said this week. Lane being Lane, but he's grab your popcorn, and then he gets boat raced at. That was a couple of years ago at Alabama. So. No, I actually know that on the scale of dueling coaches, that falls somewhere below, or cranky coaches, somewhere below Dabo, Dave Doran, Dion, and Pat Narduzzi. They stole the headlines this week.
Well, let's talk about Dabo for a moment. Just look, I like him as a coach. The few encounters I've had with him personally, seems to be a great guy. He needs to adapt to the times, but you can tell the pressure's starting to catch up.
Yeah. That was the takeaway. If you listen to that rant, and if people don't know, it was like a 5.5-minute rant to a caller on his radio show who basically said he was Tommy Bowden at 4-4. And I thought that was wrong. He's obviously not Tommy Bowden, one of the top coaches in the game, maybe ever. Who else has done 12 10-win seasons? But they're down. And we all know the shelf life for any of these coaches and expectations, not minute to minute, it's second to second. It's what have you done for me lately? Clemson is 7-7 in its last 14. I mentioned 4-4 this season. They've been one of the most disappointing teams in the country, and rightly so. For 11.5 million, fans deserve better. And I think Dabo said a lot of things that he wanted to say, but for some reason, this guy triggered him. A man of faith dropped a smart ass comment, a dumbass comment, a bullcrap comment. Kind of really exposed what is going on inside Dabo's mind. He said there's too much expectation and not enough appreciation. Well, Dabo, when you signed that $11 million contract, they want it every year, and they sure as heck don't want it to fall off the shelf, which it has. Not to say he can't get it back, but we're witnessing in real time perhaps the end of a dynasty. Well, and I think that's what's so frustrating to the fans, no matter how it was conveyed.
Well, let me ask you that. How often, and let's think back, Jimbo's under this microscope, Dabo's under this microscope. Do coaches who appear to lose their fastball get it back? How often can you think of recent examples?
I can name a team, Florida State. I was just thinking about this. They're going to be the first team really that was dominant at the beginning of the CFP, and now has gone full circle and come back if they get in the playoff. And it looks like right now they will. But yeah, once it goes, it's hard. The thing with Dabo is it's not an age thing. This is not Joe Paterno aging out or some coach losing his mojo. He's 53. He's right in the wheelhouse of when coaches hit their peak. And for him, it seems like it's petering out. Now, the reasons are the reasons. He's failed to get into the portal with both feet. He's been really insular in hiring his assistants from the Clemson family. Now, that changed with Garrett Riley at offensive coordinator, got rid of Brandon Streeter, one of those homegrown guys. But so far, it hasn't worked out. And Garrett Riley was the best name left on the board at that point. I think he misses Brent Venables. I really do. Look, Brent was going to take a job sooner or later. It seemed like he's rejuvenated Oklahoma. And he is and was one of the best defensive minds in the country. And so you miss that, guys haven't played out. Cade Klubnik, ran DJ Uiagalelei out of town. He hasn't panned out to his potential. So when that happens, yeah, sometimes it's hard to get it back. I think he can get it back for all the reasons I mentioned. He's accomplished. He's a relatively young man. And there is an expectation there. If you're going to leave Clemson, where are you going to go? Because Nick isn't retiring anytime soon. I think he wants that job, but the way he's going, when that day comes, if it comes, they're not going to hire him.
Dennis, great stuff, my friend. Thanks so much for joining us.
All right. Thanks so much.